What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for February 9th, 2026. We might have a date-ish for our next crafting playtest, and it looks like it's going to have the inventory rework in it, as well as maybe transport. And this week's SCL had me kind of confused at points. All that and more on today's Week in Review. And as always, if this is your first week in review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news each week, put it into one video, and share some of my opinions about it. I also live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/SaltEMike, so stop by and say hi. If you haven't yet, I always enjoy seeing you guys over there. We do have a lot to get to this week, so before we do, let me share with you today's sponsor. Thank you to boot.dev for sponsoring today's video. They're back for you guys in the comments who tell me about game development. You yourself can become a back-end web developer using boot.dev's innovative and really smart lessons towards your goals. You'll learn back-end web development from start to finish with Python, SQL, and Go programming languages. But what makes these lessons so different and cool is they use modern game design to create a self-paced but captivating RPG game that teaches you how to code. Earn XP, levels, and achievements by completing quests or fighting bosses while learning to code. They have a variety of courses, but my favorite one was not about coding at all. They help you along the entire journey. It was titled, Learn How to Find a Programming Job. That's awesome. You're learning to code by doing what you actually do at that job, building real projects. But if you're bored, you're just gonna quit. Boot.dev's style of teaching keeps you engaged. Now, here's the really cool part. All of boot.dev's content is free to read and watch in guest mode. The paid membership unlocks the interactive features like hands-on coding, AI assistance, progress tracking, and the game mechanics. And with that, boot.dev never wants their students to feel like they aren't getting value. So they offer a 30-day, no questions asked refund policy, as well as a free demo of every course and its interactive features. So what are you missing? So head over to boot.dev and use my code SaltEMike to get 25% off your entire first year if you choose the annual plan. Once again, that's code SaltEMike for 25% off your first payment at boot.dev. Of course, with all the bills paid, let's get into those patch updates. All right, and I don't have this MOTD, but like early on in the week, they were like, nothing's happening this week. So we didn't actually have any tests, any patches, any hot fixes, nothing. So what I have are the MOTDs for the week. And we had one that says, first off, we're just sharing this because it's funny. And we'll talk a little bit more about it when we cover it in the SCL coverage with Benoit. But this was the progression of the MOTDs for Evocati testing chat throughout the week. And we started on Wednesday or Thursday, I can't exactly recall, but we got this one. Very exciting, a crafting test with the new inventory as well. And that's going to be early in the week, they said. Now, I really don't think something like this should be Evo only, as it's just got tons of issues in live as well. Like it's going to have its issues. What are we hiding? I don't know. It worked very well in the last Evo test. But for some reason, that is acceptable to show to people on live, the current live servers, and then we can't show you. I don't know. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Then we get this gem with more tech previews getting closer. You have to assume this is the transport one that we'll talk about from SCL. They want to do a bigger test, so we're going to wait a week. Okay, cool, I guess. No big deal. And now we already have it back on the menu. I just don't get the need to update everyone with this type of information, like on-time information. Obviously, this is an Evocati testing chat, so it's kind of a closed thing, but it has zero value to anyone. And it always gets leaked immediately, so you have to have awareness there at how comically dysfunctional the communication is with even their internal, external testers like us. So I guess we're testing inventory next week. I'll keep you posted on how the test goes. Remember, 90% of the timelines that are given in these Evo testing chats, they're way off the mark, as you can see here. So don't plan your life around these tests, but, you know, if you can make it, hope to be there and help them out, of course. Also, as you can see, they invited 2,000 more people to the test, and don't cope and think that this is any level of scaling up. The last few tests have been extremely slow. They needed more bodies. It's simple as that. And that's all we have for the patch stuff, so let's get into the monthly report. All right, and for the report, let's start out with AI tech and features. And this first one's all about the Valacar here at the bottom. This is very much hinting at the fact that we might see the non-irradiated Valacar version, perhaps on Monox, where we saw it at CitizenCon a few years ago. At the very bottom here, again, you could see that it now will freely move around a planet, even to seek out players, it sounds like. That sounds super sick. I look very much forward to seeing what they do with this, and it seems more like sandbox kind of hunting rather, or gathering as well, for valuable crafting mats rather than those like really theme parky things that we had. And then for animation, they're going to add another voice pack, which I think you could just assume is like for the NPCs at the cities. And then they're going to update Jared's character, James Harriman. He's the guy who does the news segments in the game. And then ship art, after they talked about a bunch of unannounced ships, we got to information that we can actually use. So like the Gaktak Raylin is almost through white box. It just needs its review. The UTV got to mention. And then the whole B is through its gray box review and onto the final stages of art, which is a big deal. I think we'll see this one fairly soon. The Ironclad is cooking along and is really starting to look like Drake, as they're noting using the Drake modular stuff here. And besides more ships we don't know about, they talked about the Kraken for North American art, the North American art team, and it's coming into its first art review. I hope it goes well. This is like that ship that I always wanted to grind for in game with my org, so that one's pretty cool. Mission design, most of the report here talked about things that were, already tested quite a bit, like the mining and salvage missions. Newer information here is that they've done some design work on Siege of Orison, the first location that we'll be getting for instanced content in Star Citizen. Reminder, the excuse is that they can't make good designed missions because they didn't have instancing in some areas, so the expectation is for this to be really good. So hopefully the design is going well and all that stuff. And lastly, some small mention of missions coming to Nyx, like courier and delivery missions that we've been hearing about. And if you thought this report was short because we're done, it is the January post, but it's missing information from some of the largest teams like core gameplay and most important teams like economy. That's kind of annoying, but I could assume that we're going to hear a lot more next month when we get the February report. So we'll have to see. And with that, we're moving into the SCL and video updates. All right, so this is the third or fourth talk with Benoit. So if you don't know who Benoit is, he's the CTO, the Chief Technical Officer, and he talks all things tech with CIG. And the first thing he talks about was the new transport system. So let's hear about that.
Transit and transport manage elevators, in-ship elevators, trains, anything that has to move when you press a button and you call it. So It's a network of carriage, peripheral, and gateway.
Okay.
Right. So you take an elevator to go to your hangar, that's transit.
You take a tram.
You take a tram.
Anything that's automated, anything that moves you not under your control.
Right. So we've, the team at the end of last year actually completed the first transport link, which was we tested this internally with our QA teams extensively at this point. All of the new Babbage HABs links. So we took one link in the universe, that one, and we tested the crap out of it. Right now, that's a static link. And so we've got internally at the moment, new Babbage, we've got hangars and HABs. So the state of transport now is the team is working at converting all of Area 18. So we're talking HABs, hangars, transit trains, all of Area 18 to the transport system. So we're gonna go to tech preview with that. That's our plan. And the reason why we need to go to tech preview is because we need players. We've tested this internally. We can't muster as much players as we want, so we're gonna try to see if you guys wanna come and help us out, test the new Babbage Transit for real on a tech preview to validate all the assumptions that are in the system.
All right, so after all the back and forth in the patch notes section, you have to assume what they are trying to do is get this into the playtest that we're getting early next week. This isn't base building, but that doesn't mean that, like we shouldn't be freaking out, oh my God, transport. But this doesn't mean that this isn't paramount and very important to the way the game will function long term. I mean, they even said elevators in our ships is part of this, right? So I'm looking forward to helping out with this test where I can, and contributing to ICs and all that stuff, because again, how we move around the game is one of the most important things. Next, he talks about another really important thing, freight elevators, or some inventory stuff in general.
The rest of these issues are, some of them are really problematic. One of them we actually discussed, you and I, just before the show, was how if you're turning in Wicklow items, you need to put them one by one.
You have to be able to put things in a box. You have to be able to put things in a box.
Correct. And so
you have to be able to put things in a box and have it suck up that box.
Yes, I agree, 100%. And so that's going to be one of the first ones I think we need to look at. The other one is a bit more problematic because we don't have a proper repro for, but sometimes there are lost items that fail if there's like a backend slowdown when things get stowed. So we have a couple reports for this, not many, but the ones that we have are critical. And so, this is a kind of a rule we've set on the CGP team. So Jens and I are pushing this to everybody. It's like the golden rule for everything related to freight elevators or anything that touches inventory is a player should never lose an item interacting with these systems, right? We need trust in them 100%. And so that's why we're tracing on those issues. So there's still a lot more work required on freight elevators for different edge cases.
Yeah, so trust is big, but it's going to take a long time to build that trust and a lot of fixes to rebuild it, right? But I am happy to hear that this is a goal of theirs. I don't want to lose my items when I'm not supposed to, but while Jared is right, you need to be able to nest containers. And, of course, he's right about that, but there's also a lot of issues with that when turning into Wicklow. The freight elevator is incredibly clunky as it's used for freight, not for items, right? So right-click in local inventory and a turn-in would be so much better in my opinion, or just the mobi-glass knowing the items you needed are at the right location and in your inventory, and you just press complete from the mobi-glass, like anything but the elevator. So this extra work on that outside of just shoring them up to make Wicklow better, this is not the right way to do it. So there's just 1,000 other options, and we always choose the worst one at this company. I don't get it. Next up is item recovery V1, and this is another one that I'm worried about.
Obviously, long-term persistence has always been it's a difficult problem to solve. It sounds simple, but it is not, I assure you. But in order to facilitate all this and also other item recovery needs, we've decided to basically persist those entitlements across patch. So these things will never get wiped anymore. And so losing a ship is not going to be a thing. That's not going to be technically possible. We never really delete entitlements. And so you have insurance on those records, so you can claim insurance. The only way to lose a ship will be if you no longer have insurance on it. You still have the deed for it, but you can't claim it. So item recovery is a rework of the entitlement system. It touches on how you claim insurance on ships. It allows snapshotting of ships, but also FPS items, so that these live with an insurance loadout that we can keep and recover. And then will give us the ability to recover or claim your even FPS items. So think of it as an insurance system for FPS items, right? So this whole mechanic ties into LTP as well. We're also hoping through the system to solve some of the issues that exist with, taking components off of a ship, then claiming the ship, losing the components, and or in some cases being able to duplicate some default components. This whole loop is insurance has always been a problem design-wise for how this functions. So item imprint V1 allows you to imprint items, save that state, and then recover it on death or when you claim insurance.
All right, so I reached out. I absolutely hope we get more clarification on this. Number one, this is about ships earned in the game. They're going to act as if it was bought on the website from now on, and you won't lose it unless they do a wipe on purpose. They did say they're never going to wipe, but he appears to be using wipe, in a weird way as accidental wipe, oops, your ship got wiped, not that we intentionally have a wipe and your ships are gone. But this mention of FPS items, is that just inside ships? How do we ensure FPS items? Why bother, to be honest? It sounds like the tier 0 system that we already have, if it's outside of ship FPS items with just kind of more steps on that FPS front. So what do we even kind of get? Because right after this, they tell us insurance is not part of the item recovery V1. So I'm lost. I would love to see like maybe a Spectrum post from Benoit. He has done that in the past to clarify on some things, and I think that would help. And then next, Jared gets kind of, asks about getting rid of ships that, you may not want. And then Benoit gives an example that I have even more questions about.
There are, I don't want to go too much into details into this, but okay. I can give an example of like, you have a ship filled with cargo that you stow into your location inventory in New Babbage, and you claim that ship, right? In the current way the system works, that cargo's lost, right? That ship will get deleted and you're done, right? Mm-hmm. You get a new one, but it's the same entitlement, right? With the new system, we have the ability to also show you ships that you own that had an entitlement on it. And so what that means is you could claim that ship. You'll get a new, let's say it's a Caterpillar filled with cargo, and you're like, I need to claim it for some reason. You can claim the ship. The other ship will be bricked, right? That's how the design is functioning. So it's no longer usable, but you can still retrieve it. You can still retrieve the bricked ship and get it. And then if you destroy the ship or tow it out, then it'll go away from your entitlement. But there's going to be more system, of course, to remove that from your ASOP terminal longer term, but not in this phase, but longer term, yes.
So my first question is, what happens if it's not in a city or station? Second, again, what's the point of crafting anything if this is the direction of the insurance system? When are these snapshots of ships gonna get made? Is it only when you store it, or is it all the time? Because we had snapshot things previously that was like every 10 minutes. So I don't know. I'm just incredibly lost on this, and insurance is the number one decider of will crafting work? Will crafting be fun? Will it be used often? Will somebody be able to be in the profession of crafting or not? So getting this right is paramount, and it doesn't feel like they know what they want to do here yet. Next up is the work that's going into social tools that we saw at CitizenCon.
The strike team, right, covers all areas of social. So the plan is to go into 4 different pillars for it. So the first order of business is the Comlink app. So the Comlink app is like one of the oldest mobi-glass application we still have. We're completely eliminating that tab. We're bringing in forward the social application that we've shown at CitizenCon, so that design is moving forward. So replacing that, chat widget, right? So the entire chat experience in the game, we're completely overhauling this from the top at the moment, revamping things like, social notifications. Currently in our mobi-glass, we only have one kind of level of notification, which is like ultra important. So to have a proper social experience, you need to have these like, system updates, system notifications, like someone joins, someone leaves, whatever. Looking at things like combat log and all the stuff that we've looked at in the social universe panel. So we're actively building this now.
I think the highlight is solving some of the notification issues that we are really suffering from now in the more recent event with sharing missions and a lot of people joining a party. And yeah, they surprised me quite a bit with this next topic.
The inventory work is going really well. Some of the people have been reposting screens recently on the original concept, right? That was shown. It's starting to look like that, so that's really good.
When does that go into tech preview?
We're hoping very soon, because like at this point, every version that I've seen is fully functional, and so we just really want to solve one thing. This is one, and you say quality of life, like if I have a third one to add to my list, right? The speed of rendering of icons in the inventory.
Right. You feel good enough to say 4.7 in March?
I think so.
And so if inventory rework is 4.7, I'm not going to push you on crafting. It's a super complicated thing or whatever, but
the teams are working really hard for that launch window if they can make it.
For that launch window?
We're pushing really hard for that launch window.
You're pushing really hard to get crafting in 4.7?
Yes.
In March?
Yes.
Okay.
No promises.
No, pushing hard is fair.
So the number one on the inventory, they have mentioned the word performant a lot around it in the past, but I guess this has always been about the rendering performance and, you know, having it look pretty but render faster. But as somebody who's not a developer, I can see items in the loot UI quickly. Currently, they render, right? So am I using that word wrong? My concern is it's not snappy. We need it to be snappy when looting, and I hope his description is meaning snappy, not just the images look nice and cause, you know, less delays or whatever. So obviously, you know, pushing for crafting in 4.7 is wild. I had a really good time in the tech preview, and I think it stepped Star Citizen up to a different level when I played it. I just had a totally different experience than I've ever had. Obviously, there needs to be so much more for this to be a daily MMO kind of experience for me, but it is kind of crazy exciting to see how close this smallish test version of crafting is to making it into the game. And then they finally addressed the wipe rumors.
We're not planning a wipe. We're planning.
Good night, everybody.
We're planning. We're looking at targeted actions, right? But we're not looking at a wipe for the moment. And so we want to keep on rolling. First of all, there's a lot of some of the work we've discussed. Obviously, I can't share the details of what we're doing, but that needs to be completed. So for now, we're not intending a full blanket wipe at all.
So there is no wipe, but we don't exactly know what targeted means. So I personally think too much money has been spread around, so it kind of needs to be taken out of the world entirely, in my opinion, and we all start from our starting points. Outside of that, we don't know what we will lose. UEX has been an amazing tool that we've used to trade with each other, but it absolutely compounded all of these issues. So I don't know how you target anything at this point when everything has spread into an insane web. But yep, finally, they're at least discussing a change to how we spawn into the game.
We talked about spawn in the hangar, right? And so to build spawning hangar, we had to build a new workflow, right? To be able to determine, can we spawn you there? Is there a requirement for you spawning there, right? So the requirement in the case of spawning hangar is your hangar spawned, right? That's also extended to ships, right? But what we're trying to achieve, now I'm not promising this anywhere, but is spawn in place. And so we're trying to extend that workflow for spawn in place so that, you know, you just log in the game and you spawn where you were.
Spawning in place would be amazing. I will give you the best example I can think of from most of the MMOs that I've played, and even other games like DayZ. If you're not in a safe place, so basically anything that isn't a safe zone or something that you own, you get a timer where you are in the world for, say, 1 or 2 minutes, and you're vulnerable during that time. But if you are in a safe spot, the logout will be instant. And they obviously said there will be rules, so you can't like spawn into the loot room in Ruin, for example. Sorry, guys, but I would be lying if I said that wasn't the first thing that I would test. So, all right, we did have a number of other things. So this will be the quick hits. We won't have, I just didn't feel that these were worth clipping out. So the social systems don't sound like 2026 is the party finder and org systems, but they are mentioned as the next steps. And that we saw all that at CitizenCon 2024. They're probably going to go to regional chats instead of global. This should actually tie into helping with VoIP improvements, apparently, because this was discussed around improving VoIP. There is some movement on player reporting for bad actors in in-game chat. And we have seen in the monthly reports that they're hard at work making the mission system more robust so we can go on longer adventures. That's something that Benoit said. I always think to the Onyx facilities where they tell you as part of the mission system that you have to leave. I think this will make it so we don't. Instancing is still ongoing, and that sounds like something else that will be a part of Onyx at some point. And yeah, it's kind of... It's a requirement. They're still kind of figuring out where you'll enter and exit Siege of Orison and stuff like that. So interesting. I thought that would have been already kind of thought of when choosing Siege, but okay. The inventory rework will have proximity looting, And there will be more Twitch drops this year, so get followed on my Twitch channel if you guys want to join. I think I had 7,000 people in the first one, which is wild. And then next one is this year, and Jared went like this, so maybe towards the end of the year. And exploits are getting a higher priority as they're not quickly fixing them and moving on. They're spending a lot of time verifying the fixes, making sure they get it. They'll sell the Battlecruiser as their last concept. I don't believe them. Do you? At Invictus this year, and that's what we got for the quick hits. So with that, let's move into other updates. All right, this one's going to be real short. We got a sneak peek, and we're just going to see every angle of this Argo salvage ship until they sell it, which is hopefully in the next week or two. In case you aren't aware, this is going to be a medium salvager. That's the big kind of play here, is the first of its size. So we'll have that different commodity type of construction materials than the Fortune/Vulture make and the Reclaimer makes. I forgot what the name of it is. You can feel free to let me know in the comment section, and I'll maybe give you a little update so it goes towards the top. But yeah, there's supposed to be 3 types of construction material, like rubble, powder, and something else, and I think it's going to be the powder one. And then with that, we have a subscriber promo. This is of course, the Valentine's Day or Koromor, as it's referred to in the Star Citizen universe, subscriber promo. And I believe this is not the first time we've seen some of these items, but the first one is new. The $10 sub is a kind of cool nightlight kind of thing. And yeah, if we ever get base building, I absolutely see something like this showing up in people's bases. The $20 sub item is a nightstand. Plus you get the light as well. And I have to give props to them on this one. I think it makes total sense and is totally fine by me to sell. Beats selling spaceships by a mile, in my opinion. The package is last year's bed and couch with these new matching items to go with it. So this kind of stuff, I really do think that they should sell, furniture packs for base building. This has no effect on anybody, right? Except for, just cosmetic stuff. It doesn't make you any better or anything like that. These are the kind of things I'd love to see them sell, and they're selling them. So I got to give them props, right? When they do stuff that I think would be great for the game. I don't just complain here, as some of you think. But with that, no more complaining. We're going to move on to next week, and I really appreciate you guys watching. So if you guys enjoyed the show, please hit the like button. It costs you nothing. It's awesome. Check out boot.dev if you guys haven't yet. They've been sponsoring us for months, if not years now, and yeah, they've been super wonderful, and we really appreciate them. And yeah, if you guys are enjoying Weeks in Review, get subscribed, comment on anything that we discussed. Links for all of the notes that I use to make the show are going to be down in the description as well. And with that, guys, I will see you next week.